Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode. Anobaham here. In this episode, we are going to talk about the fundamentals of Redstone. I have made a couple videos about the Redstone basics where I talk about gates and different ways to use Redstone to get the output that you want, but I've been asked to go even deeper, to go way back to the very, very basics of Redstone. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about a couple components. We're going to talk about redstone dust. We're going to talk about how it works, how it behaves, different things depending on what we're doing with it. So I hope this episode helps you understand redstone dust a little bit better. And then in future episodes, I will be talking about all of the little redstone components, levers, buttons, all of those things, and how they work together to get the output that you want to allow you to do some crazy, crazy stuff in Minecraft. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. All right, guys, so I want to start with talking about the this block here with the redstone ore. This is how it will appear if you're spelunking or mining. This is the block that you'll find. Now, I'm not using any resource pack, so this is just the vanilla look of it. So if you are using a resource pack, it might look a little bit different than this, but usually they have something to do with red. It makes it stand out among most other things in the game. But this block is, like I said, how you'll find it naturally generated. It typically shows up in your Minecraft world between layers 0 and 15. So you'll want to get down low in your world to start hunting for redstone dust. And once you get down there, it is quite common within a Minecraft chunk. And I'll show you what a chunk is real quick. So this is a chunk. So Minecraft is built with a whole bunch of these chunks. And a chunk is a 16 by 16 area. And inside each chunk, redstone tries to spawn, I guess, about 8 times per chunk. And like I said, it only appears underneath layer 15. So within each chunk, there is quite a few redstones. I mean, that's not a huge area. So it is common. So you should have no problem once you get down to those lower areas of finding redstone. With natural generation, this isn't the only way that redstone is naturally generated in the world. It can also appear as redstone dust. The way that happens is in a jungle temple and also in woodland mansions. These will appear as part of a mechanism. In jungle temples, they have booby traps, and you'll find redstone dust. If you start to take apart the jungle temple, you'll find that there's dust laid out to trigger a lot of the redstone traps. I know in jungle temples there's tripwires where if you trip them, then arrows start being shot at you, and that's all done because of redstone dust. In woodland mansions, you can find that these are laid out in some of the jail cells because they also can come with some redstone wiring already pre-installed. And then you can also find redstone dust in chests. If you were to, for example, explore a abandoned mine shaft, you'll be able to often find redstone dust sitting in the chests that you can find. Some villages, same, you'll find redstone dust in some of the chests. It's not very common that way, but it has happened, and that is another way that you can actually obtain redstone dust in the game. There is another way. There is a mob that will drop redstone dust. It is quite rare, but a witch, if you kill a witch, there is a chance that they will drop a redstone dust. So that is another way. That's a pretty slow way because the chances are small that they will drop it, but that is another way to obtain redstone dust, especially if you want to venture into building a witch farm or something like that. You could definitely have technically a redstone farm in that case. But anyways, this is the most common way that you'll see it in the game. This is the block that you're going to mine. Now, when you mine this block, you have to use a pick anywhere from iron and above. So you can use iron, you can use gold, you can use diamond, and you can now use netherite since the newest update to mine this block. If you use any other pick, including stone picks or wood picks, you can still mine the block. You'll still break it, but it won't drop any redstone dust. When you do mine the block, if you're using just a regular pick, just like this iron one here, it will typically drop not a pick. It will typically drop anywhere between 4 and 5 redstone ore. Redstone dust. If you were to mine it with a pick that has fortune on it, for example, then you can increase the amount of drops where it'll average, instead of 4 or 5, it'll start averaging 6 drops per block. So it's a very effective way to get a lot of dust really quickly. One thing I have found, though, is when mining redstone dust, is because it drops so many items per block, it's often better if you're mining to mine it with silk touch, because if you mine it with a pick with silk touch, then it will drop the block itself instead of dropping the redstone dust. And that way, especially if you're going spelunking or you're trying to get as many minerals as you can on a mining expedition, because if you're anything like me, I hate mining. I don't like spending hours down there digging through blocks trying to find the ore that I need. I'd rather find a farm or something like that. But if I have to, like with redstone, then I want to get as much of it as I can every time I go mining. And if I use silk touch, then every time I mine one of these blocks, it drops one of itself, and I can carry that in my inventory. So I can fill my inventory with these blocks and then take it back to my base and then lay the blocks out on the ground and then use a fortune pick to then mine it to get all the dust while I'm there at my base. I can empty my inventory, do it again, and it's just a nice, easy way to get a lot of redstone dust. All right, so once you do mine the block, what do you get from the block? Well, when you mine the redstone ore, you get redstone dust. Redstone dust is essentially the wire of the game. It's the electricity, so to speak, where the redstone dust is used to carry signals from one thing like a lever or a button to another thing like a door or a piston, and allowing the lever to then control or activate the door or piston, and the redstone dust is what carries that signal. Redstone dust can also be used in ingredients when brewing potions and things like that. You can use redstone dust as an ingredient in certain potions. Now, along with potions, redstone dust can also be an ingredient while crafting a lot of supplies. And some examples are you use it when making a clock, when making a compass, repeaters, comparators, note blocks, lamps, the block of redstone. And there's a lot of other examples as well that I couldn't include or fit here on the hotbar. But it also is used not only for wire, but it's also used in potions and also used as an ingredient when crafting some of the components in Minecraft. I should also note that one other way to obtain redstone in the world, other than mining it and witches and finding it in some temples and woodland mansions, is you can also trade a novice level cleric villager. You can actually trade him a 1 emerald, and usually they trade 2 redstone dust for 1 emerald. So there are a variety of ways to obtain redstone within Minecraft, not just mining the ore here. One interesting thing to note about this redstone ore is when you interact with it while you're mining, you actually trigger this little reaction where it will give out some light and looks like with this animation that it's actually giving off a redstone signal, but sadly it is not actually giving off any redstone signal whatsoever. So you can't actually draw power from this. It's just a nice cool animation that gives a little bit of light when you're mining this block. All right, so redstone dust. So when you mine the redstone ore, it drops redstone dust. When you pick up redstone dust and lay the dust itself on the ground, it shows up in this T formation, showing that it can connect in any of the 4 directions. So if we were to place another redstone dust on this side, it automatically connects to it and forms a wire or a line in this direction. Now you can obviously connect on any side of that wire, turn it in any direction that you want. But generally when you use redstone, it's to carry a signal from one location to another. Now when redstone wire, when you place it on the ground, redstone wire can only carry a redstone signal from something like a lever. It can only carry it for 15 blocks before the signal becomes too weak to continue any further than that. So if we were to extend this all the way out, let's power this up so you can see what it looks like. So this is a power of 15, 14, 13, and goes all the way down until you eventually get to the point where you are at 0. So that is the 16th block. So as you notice, this one is just faintly on. So if we were to place a lamp, this one is not receiving any power whatsoever because there is 0 signal strength here. However, if we were to place the lamp right next to that final signal strength of 1, it is still enough to power that lamp. So that is one thing that we need to remember with redstone dust is it is limited to how far it can carry a redstone signal. So redstone can also climb up 1 block. So as you can see here, we have redstone just going on a flat surface all the way down to the lamp. In this case, what I've done is I've added a couple situations where the redstone is actually changing elevation in the game. So it's going from this level up a block to this level, down again to this level. And you'll notice that the redstone actually goes up the block and around, so it wraps that block. Now one thing is that redstone dust cannot go more than 1 block high. So if we place a redstone dust 2 blocks from the redstone here, it does not connect. It can only connect to redstone that is 1 block difference. So as we can see, we go up and over a couple blocks. We can even continue going up if we need to go any higher, just taking it up some stairs. Same thing with coming down. You can come down the stairs either way, and I showed you this way as well. It doesn't really matter how you organize the blocks as long as they're in order. You can also have it come off the side if you want. So we can do one there. Sorry, not there. We'll do it here where it comes off the side like that. And same thing where it doesn't actually matter which direction, but it can go up and down. Now, if you were to count the redstone dust in this case, you'd have to count 1 redstone dust per block. So for example, as I said earlier, that a redstone signal will only go 15 blocks. So I've done this on purpose where I've placed the levers in the same spot, I've placed all the redstone in the same spot, and I've placed these lamps in the same spot so that you can see that this one is in fact 15 long, and this one will also match 15 long as well. But if you were to count, some might think that there's actually 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So it should only make it to about here, but that is not the case. Anytime redstone is on a block, whether it's here or here, anything touching that block is counted as 1 redstone dust. So this and this aren't really counted, just what's on top. So if we were to flick this lever, you'll find that the lamp does in fact turn on because they are technically the same distance apart, even though this one does seem to be wrapping around the blocks. And in real life, this technically would be longer if you were to then extend this and lie it flat. But in Minecraft, things are measured just by blocks. So this is 1 redstone dust, this is 1 redstone dust, so on and so forth. So even though it's changing elevations, it's still the same length as one that's right on flat ground. All right, and like I just mentioned on how redstone dust can travel up 1 block in height, I wanted to demonstrate that just to show you that it cannot travel more than 1 block in height. If we were to try to do the same thing and place redstone dust 2 blocks higher than this redstone dust, it does not connect. It can only do that when it's placed on the next block in height. If you wanted to go any higher, you have to do it like a staircase and go all the way up 1 block at a time. So that is one thing that redstone cannot do, is it can't go any higher than 1 block at a time. Now, while we continue talking about how redstone dust travels, I wanted to bring up a couple points, because often when you're doing redstone contraptions, you're trying to fit them within a certain space, whether it's underneath your house or behind a door or something like that. And often you're very restricted to how much room you have to work with, and often you have to work around other blocks and sometimes other redstone. And one thing that you need to watch out for are things like in this case where you have redstone going up some stairs and it's going down some stairs. One thing you have to be aware, especially on the ones that are going down, is that if you were to place a block here right above this redstone, because maybe you need this space or you're trying to cover the redstone dust, is you need to be aware that when you place a block there, it actually cuts the redstone dust on those edges and no longer connects to the redstone dust down here on the ground. And so that can change or break your redstone component depending on, or your redstone contraption, depending on what you're trying to build. So if this redstone dust, for example, was leading off to a piston, or in this case, a lamp, and you have something triggering something, but then you go to like clean up the whole area after you're done and you start putting floor blocks back on and you're trying to cover everything up and you inadvertently place a block here, the lamp no longer is receiving that signal because you've cut the redstone dust on those edges and it can no longer connect to the redstone dust here underneath. Now there are ways around that in order to still allow the redstone dust to continue through. And the way we do that is with a number of different types of blocks. Now, this isn't all of the blocks that are available to do this, but these are some of the blocks that will allow you to place it here. So, for example, ice still cuts that line. But if we, for example, place a chest, the chest allows the redstone dust to continue through. We can also place an anvil, which still a same thing, allows the dust to go through. Now a grass block is an interesting one. I'll actually get to that one in a minute. Leaves, same thing. They still take up the entire block, but because they're a transparent block, they allow the dust to travel through. Slabs are another one. Even though they are resting right against the blocks, they do still allow the redstone to go through. They don't have to be on the top half of the block. They can be on the bottom half and still allow that redstone to go through. Stairs, same thing, even though it is in contact with those edges and theoretically should be cutting the redstone, it doesn't, because similar to slabs, they're not a full quote-unquote block, so they still allow that redstone dust to go through. Glass, same thing, it's a transparent block, so same, it does allow the redstone to go through. Composter apparently does the same thing, where it also will allow the redstone dust to go through. Now, not all of the workstations do this. Some of them do, some of them don't. And depending on if you need redstone dust to be carried on top of this block, that will change on which block you use in this case, because a lot of these, like the anvil and the chest, don't allow you to place redstone on top of them. But typically, if you're in a situation like this, you won't generally want to do that, because that redstone will connect with these redstone here unless you were to place another block above that, cutting this redstone from these redstones to have this line going in a different direction. Now, moving into the grass block, this one is an interesting one, because as you can see, if you were to place a grass block here in this spot, it does in fact cut the redstone wire. However, if you were to take a hoe and change this grass block into farmland, it actually then allows the redstone dust to go through. So this could be something that you use in order to access or trigger a redstone signal. So for example, in this case, we have this lamp, which we can say is a door or whatever it is. It could be a warning light or whatever. It could be something. And right now, because the grass block is normal, it's not actually sending the signal through. But as soon as we hoe this specific block, it triggers the redstone, which turns on the light, which could be something like, instead of a light, it could be a secret door. It could be something else that ends up triggering. Do it again, it triggers it again, right? So anytime you hoe this and turn it into a dirt farmland, it will send that signal through. If you were to deactivate the farmland, I don't know if it'll actually let me do that here. There we go. Then it turns into a dirt block, which then deactivates the signal. So this could be a really nice way to hide a secret entrance or something like that. It was just a thing I discovered very recently, that if you take a grass or a dirt block and turn it into farmland, it will actually connect the redstone. And so I think that's a really, really neat feature. Once redstone dust is placed on the ground, there are many ways to remove the dust. You can actually hit the dust with any or no tools. Doesn't really matter. You can also use a piston, and if you use a piston to push the redstone dust, it will break the dust and it will drop the item itself instead of moving the redstone wire. It will no longer be attached to the ground. It will drop itself again, just like this. You can also do the same with water and lava. If you were to spill water in this area or run water, it'll hit the redstone wire and break it, similar to torches, where again, the redstone will just drop itself in this dust form, and you'll just have to pick it up, remove the water, and then replace replace the wiring. All right, and I just changed those to the better color of red. All right, and I wanted to talk about also not only how my, redstone dust travels flat or up and down a couple blocks, but I wanted to also talk about how to make redstone go up or down more right up above you or down right below you, because sometimes you need to carry the redstone up directly above you a few blocks or whatever to reach whatever component of your redstone contraption you're trying to get to. So I want to talk about how to carry redstone up and down right now. So the first way, the most basic, I guess, way is using redstone dust on its own and just climbing a staircase all the way up, just like this, twisting all the way around and then getting to the whatever it is you're trying to light. In this case, it's a lamp. So if we go down and just flick this lever, it will travel all the way up and turn on the lamp. And if we flick it again, it turns off the lamp. Now this one isn't the most compact. As you can see, it actually takes a 2x2 square space and then however high you need it to go. There are other ways to do it, depending on how much room you have. Now, you are limited, though, when using just redstone. This is the, redstone dust. This is the only way to do it with dust alone. Actually, there is one other way I will show you in a moment, but this, if you're using only redstone dust, it's not as compact as if you were to add another redstone component that allows you to transfer the signal up a lot easier. But right now we're just talking about the dust, and this is one of those ways to do it. One of the other ways to transfer redstone dust up is with slabs. Now, this one, again, isn't really much more compact. This one is a 2x2 space, so still taking up 4 blocks in size. And this one also is taking up 4 blocks in size. It's just this one is a 4x1 space. So how this one works is the signal works with walking up with slabs. Now, how slabs behave with redstone is it doesn't look like these two are connected, but they are. But they're only connected under certain conditions. So I'll show you what I mean in a moment. So if I place a lever here and I turn on that lever, you'll notice that it is powering the redstone signal all the way up the slabs and then powering this lamp. Now, it doesn't really make sense. It's kind of confusing because, as you can see, if you follow the line or the wiring, this wire here is connected to this wire, but this edge here is also connected to this edge, which is also connected to this edge. So it's a weird way for it to travel up these slabs, but redstone does travel up slabs like this and then eventually reach the top. Now, one thing I wanted to demonstrate was that with slabs, not like stairs. Now, in this case, the redstone signal can travel up the stairs. It can also travel down the stairs. In this example, the redstone can only travel up the slabs. It cannot travel down the slabs. So if I now turn this on, this redstone dust here is the only dust that is lit, and it never passes the signal down to the next slab. So like I said, redstone can travel across slabs, but only under certain conditions, and the condition is that redstone signal must be traveling up the slabs. It can't actually travel down the slabs. So moving into how to have redstone dust carry a signal straight down. You can't, other than the staircase, this is the only way to really have redstone alone take a signal down. It doesn't have to be a winding staircase. It can be like a straight staircase all the way down. But the other way is adding in these redstone torches. So this is one way to have redstone signal going down. So right now we have, if we put a lever on this one, right now the lamp is off, and we have kind of an alternating signal thing going on here, and I can explain that a little bit later when I get into redstone torches. But all you need to know is, for the time being, the input is off, the output is off. But if we flick on the input, then the output turns on. This one is a 2x1 square space, so this one is probably one of the more compact ways to have redstone carry a signal downwards. But if you're looking at using only redstone dust, then you're gonna have to stick with the staircase to carry the redstone up or down Especially if you're going down, this is really the only way to do it because, like I said, using only redstone with slabs, the redstone can't travel down the slabs, so you're going to have to stick with the staircase. All right, so now that we know how redstone travels, that it carries a signal, what can redstone power? Redstone can carry a signal into anything that can accept a signal to change the state of that block. So for example, you can have redstone going into a piston, which will extend or retract the piston depending on the state of the piston. You can have it going into a door, which it will change the state of the door between open and closed. You can also put it into a dropper, for example, and let's just throw one of these guys in here. So when you give the dropper a signal, it actually spits out one of the items that are contained inside. You can also power things like lamps, which I've already been demonstrating today. It can also power things like note blocks. You can hear, you can actually change the tune on the note block depending on the signal that you're receiving. And I want to do a test here real quick, see if it changes. That is the strangest note block I have ever heard. They usually sound much more happy than that. Weird. You can also use it to power things like gates. So if you have a cow farm or you use gates instead of doors, same thing. If it receives power, it opens. If it loses power, it closes. You can also use it to activate TNT. So if you give the TNT some signal, kablooey, it can explode. All right, one other interesting item that interacts with a redstone signal is the curved rail. So we have a curved rail here. Right now it's receiving no signal, and right now it's connected to this track. If we were to give it signal, it actually flips to the other track, which makes it a nice handy feature to use redstone dust with minecart tracks if you are wanting to control where you want the minecarts to go. Depending on what conditions are met, you can have the redstone dust activate or deactivate and have the carts go in certain directions. Just returning to this situation where the block is cutting off the redstone dust depending on the block. You can also use that to your benefit by creating something called a clock. And what you do is you just take some 2 blocks and you place one here and you put a torch on the other one. So let's grab a torch and you put that there and you grab that. So what's happening right now is this torch is powering this block. So if I was to place a redstone dust on top, you notice that the redstone dust does come on because this block is being powered. However, if I was to place a redstone block or redstone dust here, this block is receiving power, which in turn can give power to this redstone dust. But because this redstone dust will be powered, it should be giving this block power, which should deactivate this redstone torch, which again reverses the entire thing. So you'll notice that this will form something called a clock. And in this case, it's called a burnout clock because it blinks so quickly that eventually the torch itself just burns out and stays in the off position. So there you go. So now it's just permanently off. The only way to get it to reset itself is to update the block either beside the torch, under the torch, or ahead of the torch. So if you were to just remove a block, it'll update itself and then burn out again. Same thing. If you update it again, it burns out and continues going forward. And that is because the way that the torch interacts with the block above and how that interacts with the redstone dust creates this I don't know, wouldn't call it a glitch, but this burnout clock, which can really mess with your redstone signal. Unlike in this situation where it's redstone dust on the top and redstone dust underneath. In this case, you have that situation where it's actually cutting the redstone line, but with a torch, it's a little bit different where it's actually powering the block above it. Redstone dust doesn't do that. Redstone dust doesn't power blocks above it. So if we had something like this, where we had redstone dust there, we will place a torch and power this. So this is now powered, but that doesn't mean that this block is powered. So if I was to place a redstone dust on this block, this isn't receiving any power from this redstone, right? And that's what's different about this redstone torch, is this is giving power to the block above it. So that is one thing to note, is if you have a redstone torch on the same block as you have a redstone dust, if you were to put a block here, you will be creating that clock. Now the same thing happens if you place, like how we had it before, where if you have slabs or glass or stairs or things like that, then it doesn't do this crazy clock situation. And that is because if we were to place glass or something like that, it's not a real block, and so it's not receiving power and thus not powering the redstone. So then in that case, it's as if there is no block above, and then it just remains in this state that can work just normal. So often I run into this when I'm trying to hide redstone, and I end up accidentally placing a block here to cover the torch, and then it causes my redstone to blink, causes the torch to burn out. And if I don't notice, and then I try and use this redstone, right, I try and use it, it doesn't work, because it ends up, it's not working, because it causes the torch to burn out every time, which can definitely break redstone contraptions depending on what you're trying to do with them. All right, and I want to show you one more behavior of redstone dust before we finish the episode here. And that is in this situation here. How does it interact with the blocks around it? So redstone dust in this case, as I was mentioning earlier in the episode, it has this T formation, which means that it can interact with the blocks on all four sides. So if we were to place blocks here and here, and place lamps on all of these, they will all be on. But if we were to, let's get this on there like that, we can even do it like that. So because it's in contact with the redstone dust, it is pointing directly into the lamp, and that causes it to turn on. Now with a redstone dust, as far as I know, it was added in recently. It might have been something that I just never noticed before, but I think it was actually added in a recent update, that you can now change the shape of the redstone dust. So right now it's in the T shape, and it's powering all the blocks on all four sides. But if we right click on the redstone dust, it actually changes it to just a dot, and it no longer interacts with the blocks around it. So that is another interesting feature, where if we need to have this dust here, but not interact with any of the blocks around it, then we can actually right click it and have it stay on its own and not actually power these blocks. I'm not entirely sure when or how I will use that, because as soon as you add one redstone, then like I was saying earlier, it changes the direction. It's no longer a dot. You can't change the shape anymore, no matter how many times you right click on it, and it automatically starts powering a block depending on which direction you've placed that second piece of redstone dust. So if the redstone dust is on its own, then you can turn it on and off. I'm not entirely sure, again, what the use for that would be. I haven't actually used that myself, not with a single piece of redstone dust, but I think that is an interesting feature, or an interesting characteristic worth noting. All right, and one more way how redstone behaves is in this situation where you have redstone in a straight line. Redstone will not power the blocks directly beside the redstone itself unless it's actually pointing into that stone or that block or the device. So in this case, you can see that the lamps are directly beside the dust, but they're receiving no power. Other than there's blocks here that can pull the redstone from the line that's right beside it, but as you can see, it actually changes the shape of the dust where it's pointing into the block. And 3 of the blocks are the target block, repeater, and a comparator. But they actually, essentially, when you place these items down, the redstone dust prioritizes those items, and so it redirects itself to go sideways. Now, the only reason this lamp is on is because it's actually right beside the target block, which is receiving power, which allows this to be powered. It's not receiving power from this line here. However, if you come down to the ground and you have these lights here, which are connected or that are placed right beside the blocks that have the redstone running across them, they are lit. And that's because they are actually taking their redstone signal from the block itself, which is being powered from the redstone dust. But if the redstone dust itself isn't pointing into the device itself, then it can't actually power that device. And in these lamps, in this case, the redstone dust itself isn't pointing into these, but it's because these blocks are interacting with the block that has the redstone dust on them. So these are being lit kind of inadvertently, not directly from the redstone dust itself, but from the power that the redstone dust is giving to the blocks. On that note, there are 2 ways that a block is powered. There's soft powering and hard powering. Soft powering is in a situation like this, where we have redstone dust that's powering this block, but you can't actually take redstone signal from this block to power more redstone. And what I mean by that is if we have redstone dust going into this block here and redstone dust coming out of the block here is being powered by this redstone dust, because if we were to place a redstone torch on top, you'll notice the torch turns off, which means it's receiving power, but it's not, this block is unable to actually light this redstone dust. Hard powering this block would be something like this. If we were to take our redstone dust and place it there, and instead of placing redstone dust, we place a repeater, and now we turn it on, this redstone dust can get signal from this block because the repeater is hard powering this block. So there are 2 different ways. Redstone dust does not hard power a block, which is why it can't send the signal through to more redstone. You either have to put the repeater on the back side of the block to hard power the block, or you can place the repeater on the front side of the block to pull the redstone signal from the block, from the soft powered block, to then carry the signal on. All right, guys. That is it for the episode today. I'm sure that I have left something out of the episode in regards to redstone dust. If you know what it is, feel free to throw it down in the comments, and I will be sure to try and fit it into the next video to make sure that we have everything we need to know about redstone dust. But I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I hope you now have a greater understanding of how redstone dust works, why we use it, and how you can better use it in your redstone contraptions. If you liked the video, please feel free to smash that like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell icon so that you can be notified when I place more of these videos up on YouTube. Again, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.